Hello, mindful friends. Today we're going to be talking about what the difference is between world-renowned, extremely influential spiritual teachers and ordinary people. And through my teachings and my beliefs, I say fundamentally nothing. And this is what I love about kind of Zen and Buddhist and mindful teachings, is that it tells us there is no fundamental difference. That at the basic level, we are all of the same nature, and that all of us have the Buddha nature within us. And they believe this is even true of the Buddha himself. There was nothing, of course he was extraordinary, but there was nothing fundamentally unique about him. And I believe this to be true of all of our spiritual teachers, even in any religion. And this may be controversial, but let me explain why and how I believe this serves us. Is when I discovered this in the Buddhist teachings, it was a great motivator for me and a huge eye-opener to think that we all have the same potential to be as deeply good as the greatest spiritual teachers. We all have it within us to get to that level and to be that kind of being and positive presence here on earth. And that it's more of a matter of where we are placing our focus, our energy, our attention, and what we are doing daily to cultivate this in our lives. So let me give you a few examples of this that I encountered recently. The first one is when I was watching Mr. Rogers, the movie with Tom Hanks. And they took a direct quote from Mr. Rogers and put it into this movie of when he was being interviewed about being a hero. And someone mentioned that maybe he should be considered a saint. And Mr. Rogers said, "No, I do not want to be called a saint. And the reason is that if you call me a saint, people feel that I am different than them, that I have something special that they don't have, that makes me be able to show up in the world in this positive way that I do." And he said, that is not true at all. I am just like every other human. And the difference is that he makes a choice to take care of his emotions, his internal state, his energies, and he has practices that train him in the skills and the abilities to show up the way he does out in the world. And he says anybody could do this. Whereas I believe if we label people as different, as specially spiritual or touched by this other greater being, when others are not, it feeds into this idea that, oh, we could never get that way. What's the point? You know, they're not afflicted by the anger I feel or the trauma I feel, or they're not afflicted by depression, and they're above that. And so that's how they can show up in this way. But what Mr. Rogers is saying in these other examples that I will continue giving you is that's not true. And Mr. Rogers said his biggest affliction was anger. He was quick to anger, would feel it. It was one of those seeds within him. but he developed a lot of skills, worked on it. He had practices that he would do daily in order to not feed his seed of anger, but to feed his seed of love and compassion. And he would do that in loving kindness prayers, so sending love and kindness out to everybody around him. My second example is I just finished the biography of Mother Teresa and also her compilation of letters she wrote through her whole career. And one might think, Mother Teresa, touched by the grace of God at a different level. Yes, the woman was at a different level, but not because she was intrinsically different than you and I. In her letters, we see that she too suffered, I believe, probably depression, great doubt. She judged herself a lot for pride, for not being humble enough. And so it wasn't like she was free of all these human afflictions, and that freedom made it easier for her to show up in this saintly way that we remember. That the truth is she dealt with very strong inner afflictions, very strong, a darkness. She always described it as a darkness within her and would feel like God had abandoned her, and deep fear. The difference is that is not what she continued to feed. She would go into deep prayer, deep contemplation, meditation, she called it, in order to alleviate, to lessen these afflictions within her, and to turn back to the things that she knew would support her in who she wanted to be in the world. And then she dedicated all of her energy towards feeding those sides of herself, to giving back, to showing up in the world as this loving, ultimately compassionate person that we know her as. I also think about my teacher, Thich Nhat Hanh, and how we'd say, oh, he's this amazing teacher. He must not be afflicted by humanly pains or thought patterns. And I know this as well not to be true, that he had times where he fell into deep despair, where maybe he would feel anger towards his congregation or the need to control. The difference is not that fundamentally they have a different human experience than us. It is that they invest in practices and skills that keep them well. That, as we say, the old story of we have the two wolves within us, and which one are we going to feed? The good wolf of light and love, or the wolf of anger and hatred. These people have both wolves like any of us, and they choose to very intentionally, with lots of energy, feed the good wolf. It's not that they are born without the human afflictions, or they've been graced by some otherworldly thing that makes them not suffer or struggle in the same way. It's that they do the hard work every day. And so when Thich Nhat Hanh would feel these moments of despair, of the need to control, or these afflictions, he would not feed them. He would not allow them to continue further. He would recognize and then go into one of his practices that he knew would help ease that, would help feed the good seeds versus the negative ones. And his was always deep meditation. He'd go in by himself and spend as much time as he needed in meditation in order to return to his peaceful state of being. So this gives me more hope for all of humanity. And I love that feeling of we all have the Buddha nature. We all have the potential to be saints, to be bodhisattvas, great teachers. And it's all just a matter of, do we intentionally choose to do the work necessary to feed the good seeds, to water the good seeds every single day? And the thing that I think we all fail to realize is that it's hard, consistent, dedicated work. Joyful work, because as we do these practices, we love them more, they feel better, we feel how they serve us, we feel how they help us show up well in the world, but that does not mean it is not work. And so if we live our lives and we're saying, wow, my human side is rough, I am an angry person, I've suffered all these hardships in life. We like to blame the world on why we show up this way. We remember, I have Buddha nature in me. I have the spirit within me. What can I do to help manifest that, help make that stronger? Stop feeding the negative seeds, because we all have the potential. And it's a matter of recognizing it will be work. And don't imagine that these other amazing teachers were just one day blessed with the ability to do this, that it just showed up and they were free of all these afflictions and the depressions and the despairs and the angers. Oh, no, my friends. They worked very, very hard to get there. And they stay there by consistently nurturing these skills, these practices within them. And that is why they get to experience the fruits of this spiritual life. And that is why they get to show up as these bodhisattvas, great teachers, saints, that we know them as. So, in your own life, you can say, how am I doing on my saintly, my bodhisattva path? How much am I letting the human afflictions take over? And how much am I dedicating towards nurturing and feeding this great teacher side of myself, this spiritual side of myself, the goodness within me? If you enjoy these teachings and would like to join us for individual coaching or group sessions, you can find us at newleafmindfulness.com. If you are wanting to realign and start feeding this bodhisattva great teacher side of yourself with work, there's a great workshop coming up at the beginning of February. It will be a 5-hour-long meditation workshop retreat here at the studio, so look for that on the website. You can find these teachings and many more in my books, Living from the Heart and Healing Mindfully. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. I hope to see you all very soon.